communication, the human connection, it is the key to personal and career success. Paul J. Mayer. What makes a person a good communicator was always a question that lingered in my head. When I first started this class, I was shaking because I did not know what to expect. I knew it was going to be about public speaking, which consisted of a lot of presentation, so my nerves was rocking from the very first day. I can remember sitting in the back of the class, not saying anything, and was afraid of talking to my classmates because I did not want to say anything and my English did not come out as good since this is a speech class. Over the course of the semester, I realized that my communication within the class started improving slowly, but it was a big progress for me. I have grown from a person who was lacking communication skill to a person who is now aware of how to communicate. Communication has taught me a lot, where I am now aware of my body language, vocal fillers, and how to communicate with my group members, lecturers, and within my relationship. I have learned communication skills such as how to be a good listener and my verbal and nonverbal cues, how to maintain confidence, and how to appropriately give and receive feedback. I can stand in front of an audience and deliver a speech without showing up and sweating profusely. I can clearly remember my first day standing in front of this class. I can remember my first day standing in front of this classroom just for practice for my impromptu speech. Even though I practiced, I still froze as I started talking. However, on the day of the speech, I stood here and I presented with confidence. I have also mastered how to capture my audience's attention and keep them in tune throughout my presentation by talking to them and receiving feedbacks. This gives me strength as it motivated me to do better. Yes. Although I have grown as a communicator, there's still a lot of room for improvement. For example, I still need to work on my perception of self and others, also personal and interpersonal self. I also need to stop relying on visual aid during presentation, as this will take away from having eye contact with my audience. Master the art of timing, as this will allow me to finish my speech within the allotted time. And lastly, the production of my voice that is still not perfect up to date. I am in my third year of university, which is sad because if I had done this earlier, it would have helped me to gain confidence within my presentation and how I communicate with others. However, I still have another year lived in this noble institution, as my plan to integrate what I have learned here in class within group and presentation. As a future social worker, I will also need these skills as I would communicate with different persons on a daily basis. I am also a mother and a wife, so I will definitely teach my son the skills learned, and I will also try to communicate better within my relationship and with my family members. Communication makes everything possible. Being a good communicator is the way to a better life and self. Thank you.
To many of you, I came up as a good public speaker, and that may be true. However, a good communicator, I was not. I like being isolated from the rest of the world, but this class has shown how this isolation have affected my firm self-concept and furthermore my relationship values, as it was very difficult to reveal my private identity and to plan a future. I wasn't always this strong. I was what you call a selective listener, which means choosing to hear what I want to hear. And in my case, I tend to hear the things that are bad and not necessarily the things that are positive. I was also an introvert. I always hoped to talk less and hide more. But due to skills learned, I am glad to say I am changing. I am more open to sharing things about myself and entertaining a good conversation with someone other from myself. My friendship has healed and the communication delivered. Based on this class exposure, I have come to believe that a good relationship starts with good communication. It's not about the collegial stories that I have heard, nor the folly that first impression lasts. It's about overcoming the barriers to communication by active listening, using simple language, giving constructive feedback, and avoiding vocal fillers. One of the things I used to believe is that all groups are bad. Everyone depends on one person to do all the work. However, my perception about group has changed. A single or even half a dozen bad group experiences does not mean all groups are bad. Based on my current interaction with my group, I have learned to stop the stereotyping and learn to respect each person's point of view. What I was good at was my interpersonal communication skills. But this class has helped me to build on my interpersonal communication. I've learned, but however, there are still improvements needed, which is my nonverbal communication by using more gestures, of course, and I've become more effective in uttering my words and adapting to different environments. But while the lack of communication can contribute to conflict, communication is the best way to resolve them, as we have looked on conflict resolutions in class. As I am a work in progress, I plan to integrate the skills developed in this class by having more interpersonal communication outside of my inner circle. In building future relationships, I hope to monitor any form of self-serving bias and distinguish between facts and inferences, as these can be detrimental to my future career as a forensic scientist. In order to enhance myself, I have to set realistic goals, and hence I revised my 10-year goals and asked for clarifications where necessary. In concluding, this class has been effective by empire. It has improved my interpersonal skills by building my widening my inner circle and overcoming barriers to communication. I leave these words with you from an unknown author. It says, communicate more. Conversation can solve most problems.
I wasn't a good communicator, but I communicated great things. Ronald Reagan. Firstly, a communicator is seen as an individual who communicates, especially one skilled at conveying information, ideas, or policies to the public. However, positive trait as a good communicator also facilitates good listening. Understanding the difference between hearing and listening is a tremendous help, as it also focuses attention to the important matters at hand. And after much struggle, I can confidently say I am a selective listener. Speaking with just words coming out means nothing unless it resonates with the audience. And as such, hand gestures, expressions, control tone, and most importantly, for me, eye contact, nurtured from the scores, plays a huge part with my confidence level and how I sell myself to others. Leaving college and going off into the working world, you can see where this is of utmost relevance. In speaking, I learned how to move from message overload to a more subtle message complexity to get my point across. For example, I now build on what is known instead of bombarding the individual with new information. From this, I have learned to keep my behavior in check, being more mindful and more compassionate as I relate to others. And I do believe this will make me a better communicator in the time to come. After all this, how can I forget enunciation? Being able to speak fluently, saying my part in a more intellectual manner. A huge part of this course was ability to watch others and to learn from them through public speaking. From here, as I move forward, there is nothing I cannot integrate. But I must say, with all the right qualities, comes a bit of overpowering demeanor as I speak to others. I have been transformed for the good. Where I was a bit timid, I'm now more open. Where I was less susceptible to criticism, I now understand it will only help me to grow. Where I usually run my mouth, I now learn to breathe. In closing, I must acknowledge the role of Miss McDonald, who with subtle but needed approval pushed me on a path to becoming a better communicator. Thank you.
When I first came to this class, I was uncertain. Speaking in front of people terrified me, and to be sitting in a class that was all about speaking and mostly individual presentations, I thought I was certainly not ready. Having a teacher that was very informed and caring helped in the transitioning of I can't do it to I will try. Learning is a part of everyday life, and I must say I have learned a lot from being in this class. Firstly, vocal fillers. I had no idea that such a word existed. I knew there were words such as and but I thought they were there to relatively fill the silence until you gathered your thoughts, only to figure out they came under an umbrella called vocal fillers. So every time someone said any of those words, I would think, that's a vocal filler. You owe me $20. Then there was verbal and nonverbal communication. Yes, I knew what those are. But after having them being reinforced in class, I started paying more attention to the way individuals spoke and the body language that accompanied their speech. And it was more cemented in my mind that our actions do speak louder than our words. Finally, the ethos, pathos, and logos. We communicate every day, but we fail to realize that the complexities that govern speech. It is more than just saying words that come together to form a sentence. It also has to do with convincing people to do or be a part of something, and doing that in a way that makes them understand why they need to react. I have learned to become more confident in the way I speak and bringing across my information, making the speech mine. On the negative side, I believe I need to control my nerves. Being nervous causes me to have shortness of breath and sometimes interrupts with the way with what I see in front of me and the way I pronounce words. I also need to work on my posture, as at times I feel the need to hold on to the lectern to straighten myself when I begin to slouch. Seeing that I have already started to notice individuals and their attitudes while speaking, I endeavor to be more mindful of what my expressions, tone of voice, and body language say when I communicate. I aim to eliminate vocal fillers from my communication diet. I aim to be able to stand tall without any support from a podium as I give future speeches. I aim to use the ethos, pathos, and logos in persuading my clients to believe in themselves as I go on to becoming a social worker. I thank you.
I find this encouraging because I know that I'm not naturally an effective communicator, but in this course, I've spent time working at it. So this afternoon, I'd like to spend a few minutes speaking about the ways communication is working better for me now and where there is still room for improvement. The first area of positive growth I'd like to highlight is as a public speaker. I've had to present more speeches during the 4 months of this course than I've ever done in any other single class. This practice has made me a lot less nervous in giving speeches. Also, having to use sources in every speech I give makes me understand the importance of being clear and credible in what you communicate. I can see where I've developed in skills like improvisation as well. Secondly, learning communication theories and concepts of this course has made me a more conscious communicator overall. For one, I'm aware of vocalized fillers, and I've been making an effort to eliminate them from my speaking entirely. I now know that communication is multidimensional. It's not only about what you say, but the tone that you say it in, your gestures, postures, dress, and your use of time and space. And what we often forget, communication is also about listening. So I'm starting to stop forms of non-listening, like literal listening and pseudo-listening, but rather focus on being engaged. Additionally, I now know the differences between persuading and informing. You can't persuade people with effects, but when persuasion is the goal, you should use the Monroe motivated sequence pattern. And I anticipate that persuasion is a technique that I'll have to use in my personal life and in my future career. For example, when trying to convince people about the importance of an issue. On the other hand, areas that I'm still weak in is my delivery, as in my audience engagement, energy level, and projection. And nonetheless, I plan to keep working on these so I can grow in my competency as a communicator and be able to use these skills effectively in life. Thank you.
I just want to say I am grateful to Ms. McDonald, who have facilitated us throughout this course. My growth as a communicator is increasing each time I present, from the special occasion to the persuasive speech, and I still need a lot of improvement. This course has assisted me with new strengths and is helping me in decreasing my weaknesses and applying these principles I have learned in my future presentations. I have also learned that you may be called out to do a speech at any time without knowing. And most important thing is being confident in yourself, to believe in whatever you're saying and also relax and breathe, which will calm your nerves. This was not easy at first, but this was a great learning experience. I can see myself applying what I have learned throughout this course about communication and how effective it is in our daily lives. I must say that it was a privilege to work with Ms. McDonald, who have shown us how to demonstrate what it means to be a good communicator, and how I should make the necessary changes when doing a speech and applying it to my life. Body language, posture, and eye contact is most important, and also being a good listener. Communication, the human connection, is the key to personal and career service. Thank you.
I can't be bothered with this course. This course is hard. Every day is a presentation. I'm not a public speaker. I don't like presentations. These are comments I get whenever I make mentions of oral communication to friends. I accept these opinions, but I tell myself that every day everybody is different, and as such, they will have their own opinions. And I'm Sharmali Foot, and I, Sharmali Foot, will do this course with an open mind. The first day of class, I was asked to introduce myself. I wasn't nervous, but for some reason, when I'm speaking for the first time to a group of people, my tone always gets low. Before I could finish my sentence, Miss McDonald said, "Speak up so that the others can hear you." I spoke louder, and when my introduction is finished, I said, "Welcome to oral communication," in my mind. At the start of this course, I give eye contact during presentation, I wore appropriate attire, and I try to project my voice. But during my presentation, I lacked confidence. I was nervous, and I have problems pronouncing my words properly. And the old saying states that practice makes perfect. And I'm a living proof that this statement is true, because the more presentation I do, the more I get better as a communicator. These presentations helps me to develop confidence, to reduce anxiety, and to improve my pronunciations of words. This course helps me to be a better group member. I learned to value each other person's opinion, and I also learned that I don't have to agree on someone else's opinion, but I should be respectful nonetheless. I intend to apply the mini-theme that Joanne Safran speaks of in her journal article. Step 2 of the mini-theme speaks of skills in interpersonal communication, which involves verbal, nonverbal, and written. I learn how to apply these skills while communicating with others. I intend to apply the informative speech outline and the persuasive outline in my presentations I have in the future, because these outlines help me to structure my presentations properly. Before this course, I did not know how to interact with my audience, but thanks to this course, now I know how to. There is room for improvement, but I can safely say that I have improved tremendously. I thank you.
Upon commencing my oral communication class, I was always a vibrant and confident person. However, at times, my nerves would get the best of me in communicating effectively. Thankfully, one of the first things garnered from this course was to be calm, cool, and collected and not let my nerves get the best of me. I have also learned to capitalize on sharing the invisible communication space with others and also allowing them to feel comfortable in connecting and communicating with me. The Sashika months prior during this course never gave effective communication much thought or practice. This course, oral communication, along with my lecturer, Miss McDonald, has helped me to become a better communicator and has also helped me to allow others around me to do the same. This course has helped me to see the importance of clarity and interpretation in the communication process, and I am now able to experience improved relationships due to the enhancement of my communication skills. When I feel I have wronged someone, or I feel someone has wronged me, I now take the approach of having a mature relationship and talking things through. I have changed the way I relate to different persons in my life, such as peers, relatives, and my associates, as I have a better understanding of values in communication. Values such as personal values, relationship values, professional values, and cultural values. When relating to others, I now ensure I don't practice selective or partial listening, but that I listen clearly to what the person has to say so that I understand clearly and interpret correctly. Seeing that perception plays a major role in and affects communication, I have made deliberate attempts to remove stereotypes when communicating with persons from all walks of life, as this serves as a hindrance in effectively communicating and understanding and connecting with individuals. Post-oral communication, Sashika, is now aware of eliminating vocal fillers while speaking, and this now propels me to put my thoughts together before expressing myself. I also now practice to give eye contact, as this helps me to pay attention and connect with the persons in which I'm relating to. I am now conscious. Body language is a major part in communication. I now make a conscious effort to control my posture, bodily movements, and facial expressions as I communicate with persons. In conclusion, at the end of every course, I expect to walk away with a new appreciation for new things learned. However, this course has greatly impacted my life in an unexpected way. I am now a person who communicates effectively and efficiently and is more keen on listening and understanding than just trying to get my point across. The saying is true that communication is key. And as my communication has improved, other aspects of my life and relationships have so greatly been positively affected. I thank you.
Take advantage of every opportunity to practice your communication skills so that when important occasions arise, you will have the gift, the style, the sharpness, the clarity, and the emotions to affect other people. Jim Ron. This speech is centered at highlighting my growth as a communicator. It encompasses the positives, negatives, and the areas in which I can improve to be a better communicator. Since the beginning, I have always been one to be quite shy. Around strangers, that is. Due to the information gathered from the course, I am no longer as shy as I was then. Now, when communicating with people, I am more open and I carry a brighter smile. I have also learned that monopolizing, which is a form of non-listening, was never something good. Normally, when having various conversations, I would take away from other person's points and start talking about me, depending on the topic. I am now able to listen effectively and provide better advice if the need arises. What I have learned has not shown a negative impact on my daily life. However, there are some areas in which I can improve. I would like to be more confident than I am now, and I also aim to work extensively on controlling my nerves and be more understanding to other person's situation based on whatever is said. I can surely say that doing this course has put me on the path to becoming a better communicator, whether it be through song or speech. I now listen to understand, and I no longer monopolize. Everything I've learned has given me the motivation to use them throughout my daily life and also boost my confidence in everything I say or do. Thank you.
And I am experiencing a bittersweet moment. Yes, a bittersweet moment. Bitter because this is the end of a very impactful course, oral communication, which is being facilitated by the able Miss McDonald, which is the sweet of the course. I have seen my strength and my growth in the development of my communication, in the delivery of my speeches, and in my personal relationship. I remember on the first day of class, Miss could pinpoint me out of the whole class. Why? Of my facial expression. I know for a fact that this course wasn't what I wanted. I didn't want to be in this room. I was nervous, I was shy, but I have developed the courage, being confident, being able to communicate with others outside of my circle. So in the future, I can see myself applying what this course teaches me about oral communication and human relations. I see myself becoming more refined verbally and non-verbally, to understand the art of body language, and to know how powerful and profound it can be. When these things are not accomplished, it can be devastating if not understood. In conclusion, the journey throughout this class has taught me many lessons. I am sure we all share the same feeling. Entering into this study, as any student would, I have various weaknesses and strengths. My strength helped me to be what I am today. So I thank you, Ms. McDonald, for being the teacher you are, who helped to guide us along the way. Now that learning have taken effect, I will be preparing and practicing how to be a good communicator, engage my audience as possible through gesticulation and eye contact, and how to properly pronounce my words, and even to build strong and meaningful communication at all levels. I will seek to apply all these principles learned. I thank you.
According to dictionary.com, you see communication is critically important for advancing in any career. You see, I am an introvert, so whenever I'm out there talking, I am extremely nervous, my palms are sweaty, and I'm filled with anxiety. If you all would remember to when I first came up here, in my opinion, it was a very horrible experience. I used a lot of crutches by saying and and rambled on a lot. For those of you who don't know what an introvert is, you see, an introvert is a person who tends to be inside themselves. They would talk about them. They think inside themselves a lot. They keep to themselves. Right? You see, I believe my biggest weaknesses that I'm still working on as a communicator is I speak too fast when I talk. I tend to drag up my words, and I'm still working on the nervousness. But you see, after these past 4 months of practicing, I have become much more able to deliver myself in public speaking. Like when we learned about the Monroe-motivated speech, I'm now more able to persuade my friends and those around me on whatever I need to talk to them about. For example, if after this speech I see a grade that I don't like from Miss McDonald, I believe I am able to persuade her in giving me an extra point. Also in this course, I learned whenever you're going to give a speech, there are several things you must take note of. The first thing is to determine why you need or want to speak. The second thing is to learn about your audience's interest. For example, if I was to come up here and talk to you guys about computers and math, I'm quite sure the majority of you would zone out or just go on your phone. And I'm to keep the goal of my speech intact. I'm not supposed to begin talking about dogs and end the speech by talking about cats. Right, so in conclusion, I would like to thank Miss McDonald for being such a great teacher, and thank all of you for being such a nice audience all the time. Thank you.
When I first started this class, I'm going to be honest, I was terrified. I thought it was going to be a class where I'd have to do a presentation, every single class, or some form of public speaking. But it wasn't so, at least not really. But I was terrified because I hate it, public speaking. I hate it because sometimes I lack self-confidence. In chapter 4 of the textbook for this class, Communication in Our Lives, the author says that listening is one of the most important things when communicating. In fact, it's more important than speaking itself. This chapter also describes the 6 different types of non-listening. I do a little bit of all of them, but I was able to identify which one of these I admittedly do the most, and that's pseudo-listening. I think I've been doing this most of my life, pretending to listen when in reality I don't have a clue as to what the person is saying. I do this in class when the teacher is talking, in private conversations, everywhere, all the time. After reading about this a couple weeks ago, I realized it's not a very good thing to practice, as it usually means I learn nothing from that lecture or that conversation with that person. Since then, it's been my goal to stop this behavior, and so far, it's been working out quite well. My speeches in this class have been, they've been terrible. For my first speech on the special occasions, I was completely unprepared. I had forgotten about that speech and wrote it right before class. But if you think that one was bad, my second speech, the informative speech, was terrible. A complete failure. Well, you all saw it. I didn't once look up off that piece of paper. I held onto the podium. I was completely tense and read as if I was in some sort of a race. For this speech, I had been procrastinating so much that I even tried to finish it in class. I attempted to complete in class that I was supposed to present it. Now, I know that's terrible, but that's the way it went. I do feel, though, like the group presentations made me a little bit more confident, and now I don't feel as scared being up here speaking to an entire class of people. I feel like that's why I think I did better with my persuasive speech. It still wasn't anywhere near to the level of some of the speeches from other students here, but I feel like I did a lot better than the last one. I think that the main problem with my speeches is that I use a lot of vocal fillers, and that's because most of the time I'm unprepared. After being in this class, I've realized that it's not only about public speaking. It is in fact about communication and how we can all become better communicators, not only in public, but also in our day-to-day conversations with others. I think this class has helped me to become a better communicator, mainly by making me focus more on non-vocal communication skills, such as hand gestures and eye contact. It is up to me now to master my communication skills. Thank you, class.
How has oral communication impacted me as a communicator? In my opinion, NCU forces a lot of unnecessary classes on students. And I thought oral communication was one such class, especially after doing a similar class in Cape. Nonetheless, I followed my bulletin, and here I am. I remember my first speech in this class, nervous, sweaty, and fumbling my words. I always had a phobia of doing public speaking. And this class wasn't helping until that class assignment that made me aware of my irregular breathing techniques. I promptly started working on my breathing technique for the informative speech that we did. I haven't mastered it as yet, but I'm getting there one day at a time. As a communicator these days, I am more capable of conveying my thoughts effectively to others. Effective to others. I always hated working in teams because I always thought it was stressful and there would be a member of the team that would not participate and would not contribute much to the work. After this class, I am more willing to work with different individuals because I realized that my poor communication skills were partially a part of the issue. So now I listen and ensure that each individual is in agreement before moving forward with a decision on a piece of assignment. And this will help me become more cooperative with my group members and work towards getting better grades in the future. In a few years' time, I will be pursuing my dreams of running my own event planning company. Through this and the skills that I gain in this class, I will use these skills to become an effective negotiator and convey my ideas to potential clients. Thank you.
Tension is who you think you should be. Relaxation is who you are. A Chinese proverb. Being able to communicate effectively is the most important skill of all life skills. This course has revealed to me that communicating is not the mere exchanging of words, but it is an actual means of expressing oneself and sharing of thoughts and ideas. Our journey started in January, where we spoke of our various expectations for the course, and here we are today, our final presentation. I recall the day when we started out, we were introduced to the lawful system of this class, where we would pay to use if we use vocal fillers. Personally, it has improved the way in which I communicate by helping me to be aware of what I'm saying, and it helps me to think before I say what I intend. In comparison to when I just started out, there were a few areas of communication which I did not pay much attention to, such as my posture while speaking. The posture of a person can determine the effectiveness of a speech. While learning to articulate myself as an effective speaker, I have discovered that you are the focal point and you determine the energy in the room. These few months of classes have proven that doing a presentation isn't as nerve-wracking as we perceive it to be. It only requires training and concentration to be an effective communicator or presenter. One must focus on the audience that is being delivered to and how they will receive the information. Group presentations were my downfall because of my fear of judgment while standing before you. However, since oral communication, I've been improving my interpersonal skills. Moving forward to my future, the skills learned here will definitely have a lasting impact on my communicating and presenting skills. Not to mention obliterating vocal fillers from my sentences, and actually thinking before saying what I intend to. I thank you.
Communication is a skill that you can learn. It's like riding a bicycle or typing. If you're willing to work at it, you can rapidly improve the quality of every part of your life. Quote by Brian Tracy. My first thought of the class was that I had to do public speaking, which I had despised and thought was difficult because you had to know certain information from the top of your head. I now realize that it is more than just that. The course is more about learning and knowing information. It is about how I speak and bring across the information I have. It's about listening to each other, gaining knowledge, setting realistic goals, accepting myself as being in a process, and creating a supportive concept for change. I will not say I am fully there as an effective communicator, but I am still in the process of becoming better in every step I take. At times, we have the mindset that we become better overnight, but it takes more than one night to be as good as you want to be. So far, I've also learned to accept the opinion of others, as they also have a perspective other than mine. I've had wonderful times interacting with my group members and others from the class. We all make a good team, don't we? As I go along, I would like to see in myself what I have gained from this class. For sure, this will allow me to see the untold stories or meanings behind what I hear. In the end, I hope to be more open, not sitting in my own corner and being quiet. I see communication as interacting with people, listening, responding, and sharing your views with others, not just hearing and moving along. My mother would say, communication is key in building relationships and keeping relationships, not just intimate ones. If you don't communicate with me, I won't know what you are thinking or what you'd like for me to do. Don't go around thinking that I am a mind reader. It is something she tells me regularly, and now I know why. It opens doors to reveal the expected or unexpected. Whatever it is, I will move for change and better myself to be an efficient communicator. Thank you.
You are what you repeatedly do. Therefore, excellence ought to be a habit, not an act. Aristotle. I stand here today feeling a sense of progressiveness, as it is my honor to say to you all how much I have grown in becoming a more effective communicator. Before I head into the depths of this speech, let me fill you in on a little background information. Growing up, I was very shy. I did not engage in random conversations at all. This was so because of two major communication barriers. One being the fact that perhaps it was the way I was socialized by my parents, and the second one is the awful fear of slouching in the pronunciation of words deemed appropriate for a conversation. Even though I am not an effective communicator in its entirety, I know that I have progressed. A hearty thank you to this oral communication class. I remember my first speech in this room. Man, cheers to a disaster fabricated then and there. I was so nervous. For a moment or two, I thought I had developed speech impediment. I remember taking one long pause and two minor ones. To be honest, I was so embarrassed. I was hard on myself for a couple days. But who would have thought I would have crept out of my comfort zone and spoke politely till date? Cheers to myself for using that awful experience as a milestone in me being a more effective communicator till date. With that same impromptu speech, I had terrible postures and gestures, which I'm currently working on. Above it all, I was a slave to my script, showing little eye contact and connectedness with the audience. I may not be as fluent as the former media face during Samuel's, but I can attest to you today that I am well on my way. I am progressing and yet to be the best version of myself communication-wise. With that being said, let me engage you as to how this course has benefited me. 1, my body language and posture have improved. 2, I am certainly more confident in how I speak and stand. Lastly, which is the third point, my consistent eye contacts have my audience connected with whatever my speeches are about. Today, I stand here feeling good about myself. Clearly, this is what progress looks like. A big shout out to the definition of communication from our primary text material, and I quote, "Communication is successful when a connection is made, and it is the key foundation of relationships," end quote. I plan on making this application as it relates to my career path in being a psychologist or a research assistant in the field of neuroscience. This will definitely impact the way I speak with my clients, the way I sit, and the way I stand at different intervals. One thing I can definitely use in the code of conduct for various presentations is that I am in charge of what I say, so why not look the part? I will also use most, if not all, that I have garnered from this class as a milestone in me becoming the best version of myself as the effective communicator. As I close, let me end with another quote. This is from Dr. Rupleen. It goes like this, and I quote, "Do not let mental blocks control you. Set yourself free. Confront your fear and turn mental blocks into building blocks," end quote. I thank you. Do have a splendid rest of the day.
Let me start by telling you a story. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Kenecia. She always considered herself to be a shy person. And after completing many speeches in our oral communication class, she can now say she's still a shy person. The end. My time in oral communication class was not meant to stop me from being a shy person per se. It taught me that while I am a shy person, yet I should not allow this to hinder me from standing before a crowd and speaking effectively. After all, the speech is not for me, it is for the audience, as Ms. McDonald would say. Earlier in the semester, we were told to stand at the podium and introduce ourselves. I remember holding onto the podium very tightly for support as if I was holding on for dear life. Also, it seemed as if I let my nerves come over me because Ms. McDonald asked me if I was dancing. In our textbook, Communication in Our Lives, Chapter 8, entitled Foundations of Interpersonal Communication, page 213. It speaks about the most basic form of confirmation, which is recognition. This includes gestures such as smiling, maintaining eye contact, and my favorite, a consenting nod. I did not realize how important nodding could be when presenting until I came to this class. When I'm at the podium, I'm looking for that nod and that smile to assure me that what I'm saying not only makes sense, but that other people agree with my points. So since I realized the significance of nonverbal gestures, I am that audience member that nods my head like crazy when the speaker is speaking. So I can tell them, yes, I understand, and yes, I am interested in what you're saying. On the first day of class, I said that my biggest fear was heights, and that even stairs frighten me at times. I can now say that the vocal filler arm is a close second. I never realized how many arms we all use on a daily basis. And even when I'm outside of oral communication class, I hear someone say arm, I'm tempted to say $20, please. Oral comm has taken my listening skills to another level. It has turned me into a major selective listener, which according to the textbook is focusing on a particular part of a message. However, this is good as a communicator. It is important to listen first, be mindful of the messages sent. Oral comm has taken me to another level of communication. It has enhanced my confidence in my delivery, and it has made me aware of the effectively utilizing my entire body, gestures, and facial expressions such as eye contact, posture. In addition, it has exposed me to the appropriate attire that one should wear when presenting. In conclusion, I certainly appreciate the knowledge I have obtained on how to be a good communicator. I will continue to improve on myself by not shying away from public speaking and see it as another opportunity to master my skills in communication. I definitely see the benefit of this class. Thank you.
To be a successful communicator, you need to focus on fundamental principles rather than small, superficial things. Bill Hall, business coach. In life, the only thing that is constant is change. You have to keep changing, you have to keep developing. You're not the same as you were when you were born, right? Yes, you're older, you have grown. And I've seen tremendous growth as a communicator, some positive, some negative, and some I'm even working on. Some of the positive aspects are recognizing non-listeners, also encoding messages properly. The negative aspects are perception, my formulation of perception constantly, it affects my communication process. Also, my non-verbal communication. You realize the kinesthetics I start using my hand. I'm aware, but sometimes I just can't help it. And I'm trying to improve in group and team communication, as well as transferring or learning, using all these principles to become a better communicator, make it a lifestyle, something that I do daily. For the positive non-listeners, I've always been fascinated with this. One, because I don't want to be presenting and you're not listening. I'm aware of pseudo listeners, even though you shake your head, I know if you're listening or not. I know how to capture your attention because pseudo listeners, they are out. They are pretending to be listening because probably they are not interested in what you are saying. So I've tried to find out what it is that you are interested in. When I say something, is it that when I share a story, you start to perk up or cheer up or listen? So I'm aware of those things and I try to communicate those things to you so that it is effective. Also, striving for accuracy and clarity. What I realize is that previously I just put words together and hope you interpret it. Like a math problem, put x plus y plus z plus squared everything, and I just hope you'd find the answer. But that's not how we communicate. And what breaks down communication sometimes is our lack of stopping to think and encoding the message properly so that the person is able to decode the message and effective communication takes place. I have worked on that and I'm seeing some improvement. However, on the negative side, I'm seeing perception. Perception is the active process of selecting, organizing, and interpreting people, objects, events, and situations. Let me tell you a story. Last week, we had Faye Ellington as our guest speaker at our DCS symposium. And she said that, I'm Faye Ellington. She used her Jamaican dialect. Me not reach nowhere yet. You can't approach me. And I stopped to think about that because I'm always of the notion, the prototype that, okay, she's a media veteran. She should be standoffish. You cannot approach her because she's of such dignity. She said, no, I'm just Faye Ellington. So that gave me some kind of encouragement now that if I should see the communication director for Inter-American Division, I can just approach him and say, my name is Kenecia Hall, and I'm looking an internship in your organization. These are some barriers that we need to break down. I'm still working on it, but I hope to get there someday. Non-verbal communication. Remember I told you about the hand gestures? You still see me doing it, right? I know that I'm doing it. I'm trying to stop. And if I stop, I start to rock. And if I'm not rocking, I'm moving around because I really don't like staying around here. And what happens? You get distracted. Those break down the communication process because instead of you listening to what I'm saying, you're looking at my hands. I have this lecturer and he keeps doing this. Don't know if you know him by me doing this. But he distracts me. And as a communicator, you have to be aware of these things in order to effectively communicate to others. Oh, I'm praying. Luckily, I'm not down on my knees right now. Group and team communication. Praise the Lord, I'm coming a far way. I tell you. I have, from the article that Miss gave us from Joan Saffron, Communication in Collaboration and Consultation. Many themes, cultural commitment. People have a different mindset. They think differently, they understand, they have different gifts and potentials. In a group, you have to sit down and understand each and everyone on their level in order to bring them to somewhere else so that they can work together as a unit. I'm not there yet, but I plan to get there someday. She also said, Joan Saffron, communication is more than lip service. It's more than saying that, okay, it's going to build relationships, it's going to make you closer to others. It's about actually doing these things and seeing the benefits of them. And that is what I want to achieve, a lifestyle of effective communication, being a better communicator with each and every day. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I may have accomplished some, I may still have some that I'm struggling with, I may have some that I'm improving on, but one day I must get better. Thank you.
It was Ralph Waldo Emerson who said, all the great speakers were bad speakers at first. And I'm sure everyone can attest to the fact that practice makes perfect. And it is my task to share with you my journey through oral communication. Initially, I was a nervous wreck, and I'm sure you can see that I'm probably still a nervous wreck. I was tongue-tied and stumbling over my words. My heart would race a mile a minute, so much so that it felt like my chest would explode. But once I got far enough into the speech, everything ran smoothly, and I would wonder what I was so worried about in the first place. One thing that facilitated the proper execution of the speeches was choosing a topic that mattered to me, one appropriate to the occasion and one appropriate to the audience. Being comfortable with the topic and the speech are key. Learning and or practicing the speech so as not to read it verbatim also gave a much cleaner performance and encouraged the audience's attention. Some downfalls that befell me were the use of vocal fillers and giving nerves the front seat rather than learning to control them. In future speeches and oral presentations to come, honing my self-confidence and learning to better control my nerves and anxiety will be the main focus. Learning how to properly communicate with various group members by learning their communication styles is still a work in progress that I one day hope to master. For right now, I'm grateful for the experiences I've gained and the mistakes I've made because now I can learn from them. This course has been a constant reminder that failure is just success giving birth, and that we should see failure as a stepping stone rather than a roadblock. Thank you.
Without continual growth and progress, such words as improvement, achievement, and success have no meaning. Words of Benjamin Franklin. Communication has helped me think about other needs over mine. It helped me to understand other views and values that I should accept the qualities that differ from me. Communication can either be verbal or nonverbal, which teaches me that I should be mindful of the things I say and how I say them, and also to be vigilant of my actions when communicating with others, because actions does have meaning. Effective communication is crucial for the development of an individual. Communication skills are the key to developing and keeping friendships and to building a strong social support network. The key to become a good communicator does not happen overnight. In other words, communication is gradual. You learn as you go with life. Areas in communication that I fall short is the ability to listen fluently. This means whenever having a conversation with someone, my focus is not directed on them, but on my surrounding. So it may seem that I am not interested in having a conversation. Also, identifying when I am wrong. Life is a learning process. We all can testify to that. But to be told you're incorrect sometimes puts you in a frame mind that you will never be right. But the best part of being wrong is to know what to do right the next time. And lastly, creating meanings from how someone looks. Judging the cover of the book without reading it. For example, at the beginning of this class, I was fearful of the teacher, Miss McDonald, because she has the face which promotes fear. But getting to know her was one of the best experiences I had this semester. And if you do judge the book by its cover, you might miss out on an amazing story. She taught me the true meaning of communication based on her understanding and the effectiveness that she produced when communicating, and for that I appreciate her richly. On my journey to a new environment, such as the working world and even among friends, these are the attributes that I will transition in everything I do. Listen. People want to know that they're being heard. And listen to what other person is saying instead of formulating my response. Ask for clarification to avoid misunderstanding. Body language. This is important, especially for face-to-face meetings and video conferencing. Make sure that I appeal accessible. So have an open body language. This means that I should not cross my arms and keep eye contact so the other person knows that I am paying attention. Think about what I am going to say before I say it. Understand that the world is not revolved around me. Accept other choice and act respectively. And most importantly, I will maintain a positive attitude and smile. Even when I am speaking on the phone, smile, because my positive attitude will shine through and the other person will know it. Take advantage of every opportunity to practice my communication skills so that when important occasion arise, I will have the gift, the style, the sharpness, the clarity, and the emotions to affect other people. Thank you.
After hearing several individuals complain about the challenges faced when they had encountered the course oral communication, I told myself that I was going to make all the right preparation to reduce all these challenges that might come my way. So prior to choosing the course, I utilized several vocabulary books, trying to get my vocabulary and grammar intact, thinking that these strategies and more would work. But upon attending the classes, I realized that there was so much more to the course than what persons led on. The class was instead informative and interactive, allowing me to understand the ins of several things I was unaware of. Things such as communication isn't about the speech alone. The speech alone does not cut it. It's far beyond that. It involves being able to bring across the content clear and delivering it well, while capturing the interest of the audience and having them understand what is being said so that they would be able to relate to their everyday life. Our teacher, Miss McDonald, did deliver the concept of each lesson well. It felt as if going to classes on a Tuesday and Thursday would give us a full course meal, a meal that had all its contents complemented. The class imparted a lot of information and life lessons to learn. From it, it taught us of how annoying vocal fillers could be. I learned about perception and how to enhance it by avoiding mind reading, but instead try to listen to what persons have to say and analyze things. Furthermore, I learned about the difference between listening and hearing. Hearing is voluntary, while listening is involuntary. Who knew that? Listening has to do with understanding, and that we listen to understand, not to respond. In addition to those mentioned above, I learned that I cannot get rid of my nerves, for I can only try to control it. For my first presentation, the special occasion, which was indeed a special occasion, it was my first on-the-spot presentation. Thinking back to the day, I can remember feeling jittery and nervous. I believe we all were, but if it weren't for that presentation, myself and many of us here today would not know of our strengths and weaknesses when it comes to communicating. Passion, organization, and content were few of the things I garnered, but as for delivery, there were few areas that needed patching up, such as gestures and vocal expressiveness. I needed to use more gestures in my presentations, as gestures enhance in the productivity of the presentation. It allows the audience to be tuned in with what is being said. Overall, I can say this was indeed a very productive class. I've learned a lot and I plan to execute it in the future. A thought I'd like to leave with you is, just remember, I think, I can, I believe, and I will.
Firstly, has impacted me as a communicator. Firstly, I would like to say that before I started doing oral communication, I was someone who never really found interest in communicating. I was more of the person that really stayed inside and I really liked talking to people. And I was more of a selective listener, as was pointed out by Mr. McDonald one day. I was not consciously aware of the fact that I was a selective listener, but after realizing this, I started to become more mindful of what others are saying to me. And also I have started to engage in dual perspective listening, although I am not quite fluent in viewing situations from another person's standpoint, and I am so adept at only viewing situations from my own perspectives. But I am now working so that I not just listen to what interests me, and this will make me better able to give advice on situations in which my friends are going through. And this will give me a better sense of comfort, as I will now better be able to understand people and their standpoints and give better advice when asked. Another way in which oral communication has impacted me is that I've never been much of a critical listener. In class, as my mind seems to always waver over the slightest distractions. And the way oral communication has helped me with this is that, for one, I learned that I should be more mindful to not let anything distract me while I'm in class. And I've also learned to focus more even when what's taught seems too complex to be understood. Another thing is that I'm the type of person who doesn't really like asking questions about the material being taught. And I like to figure things out on my own. But by staying focused and asking questions about the material taught, I am now understanding better in some subject areas, especially calculus. Also, I have the tendency to listen to music while studying, and I've always not thought of it as a distraction. And by removing that distraction, as well as clearing my mind of other problems, I am more relaxed and equipped while studying. Lastly, I would like to speak about how oral communication has helped me to improve as it relates to working in groups. As I have the mindset in which I'd rather let myself down than to let others down. But as I learn deeper of what it means to work in a group where there is good communication, and we have each other's backs when presenting information, and also great ideas are pulled together and come into play, and when we are cooperating, we become more confident, and this will help me to be a better and more cooperative group member in the future. In conclusion, the experience from oral communication is one I will never forget, as it has taught me a lot that I need to better myself as an individual growing up, and this will help me to become a better future marketing agent. And I thank you all for this wonderful experience, especially you, Ms. McDonald.
Communication is a skill that you can learn. It is like riding a bicycle or typing. If you are willing to work at it, you can rapidly improve the quality of every part of life. Brian Tracy. I'm here to express my growth and extension in the area of communication. Have grown in several ways, but my weakness as a communicator have been sharpened from my vocal variation to eye contact, to fluency, clarification, self-perception, and body posture. I tend to mispronounce my words when I'm nervous, despite the challenge of executing the correct vocal variation. At times, I would hear a voice in my head. Take a deep breath. Slow down and smile. You got this. Which gave me a greater boost than Gatorade would ever would. At the start of my semester, I would search for a particular individual in the audience and to have eye contact. But now I'm able to connect with everyone. My personal and social relationship and overall level of competence in the communication help me to respect others and their opinion, even if I don't agree with it. Oral communication have taught me that I should explain my reason behind my statements and provide efficient example where necessary. As we all know, listening is a primary skill, a must to have. Therefore, as I continue my road to become a successful social worker, I will listen attentively and intentionally to my clients. At times, I'm unaware of my facial expression and my body language. Nonverbal communication can weaken the effectiveness of the communication process. As a future professional, it is my intention to show appreciation expression to my clients. While I've grown and blossomed into a more confident communicator like a flower, I believe there's much more growth to be completed. I would like to thank Ms. McDonald and my fellow classmates for helping me to improve to become a better communicator and to strive to be my best. Thank you.
On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the highest, in the beginning of this class, I would rate my nervousness at 2, due to the fact that I am that type of person who is always taking my audience onto a next level. Nevertheless, with the help of this course, I've earned my growth in various areas. I have learned to overcome some of my fears, as well as how to articulate my thoughts much easier. I thought I would always be ready for my presentation. But guess what? In the midst of one of my presentations, my confidence decided to take a toll of absence, and nervousness became the center of attraction. Nevertheless, I had to maintain my composure and direct my emotions to feed the audience, which in turn gave me comfort. With that being said, I have learned to be a better communicator with the inspiration of having a different outlook on how I communicate with my peers, especially when they are from a different culture. Through this path, I have come to realize that we all may communicate differently, But in the end, we are all trying to bring across the same information just in the way we truly understand. During the course of this class, I have learned a lot about communicating in a professional and personal manner. As it relates to communicating, I truly believe that self-concept is very important because it helps to process the involvement of internalizing and acting from a social perspective. This has helped me to understand the way I learn how to communicate with my family, peers, and the society. Miss McDonald has taught me to first know my audience in order for me to know how to communicate with them, because I cannot communicate with my peers in a game setting the same way I would communicate to an audience at a health seminar. When it comes down to how I communicate on a daily basis, I have learned how to do things differently, such as listen to what the other person is saying and respect their opinion before I make a comment. And in making that comment, I should think before I speak and be very careful of what and how I say it. When it comes on to nonverbal communication, I should be careful of my body language and my facial expression because it can show if I am interested or not in a conversation. Furthermore, the way in which I communicate will certainly determine the foundation of my relationship with family members, peers, and my professional life. With the aid of my communication skills, I will be able to express how I feel about a situation without having any regrets. My growth as a communicator is not complete as yet. Every day that goes by, I learn something new in the way I communicate. As a matter of fact, where do you think the world would be without communication? Hence, it is the key of the existence of life. Remember Adam and Eve in the garden? After evaluating myself, there are areas I believe I can improve on, such as my choice of words and time management skills. Working on these specific areas, I will be able to ensure that my audience will understand the points I am trying to bring across in a timely manner. Last but not least, I will integrate in my daily life the things I learned in this class into the field of my profession, in further educating myself and others. I thank you.
Coming into this class, I had great expectations. My goal, like many others, was to complete this course as a better presenter, or you could say public speaker. However, after our first class session, I was disappointed, as Miss McDonald informed us that our perception of this course is far from the truth. It is not to make us better public speakers, but to make us better communicators. Like many, I asked myself the question, we've been communicating all our lives. Why study communication? But to answer that question, formal studies can improve your skills and make you an effective communicator. Before my enrollment in this course, COM 251, my communication skills were relatively weak. I was reluctant in expressing myself. I hardly engaged in conversations since I was just not good in starting them. I wasn't an effective speaker whenever placed in a group. Though I had answers, I was timid in sharing them, doubting the accuracy of it. While those who know me personally consider me to be an outspoken person, I can tell you that I am very much reserved. So I won't come here and tell you that since I've started this course, my communication skills have gotten tremendous. But I will let you know that it is much better than before.
As we were introduced to various topics in this course, I started to incorporate some of the concepts taught in my daily life. And by doing so, I have managed to enhance my communication skills. Instead of trying to read minds, I started asking more questions because it is always better to know than to assume. I now recognize that all perceptions are subjective since we all perceive from various perspectives. So instead of jumping to conclusion, I now say the things that I notice about others with them and ask them their view on whatever it is that I've noticed about them. I am one of those persons that tries to justify my wrongs. Whenever in a disagreement, I always want to be right. I have learned that in communication, this is considered as self-serving bias. And I'm working that one day I will have a change behavior when it comes towards that. There are a few lessons that stood out for me in this course. Personal relationships and communication is one of them, and also the topic of self-disclosure. Self-disclosure allows people to know each other in greater depth. While it is not always